Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Always Aggressive Podcast. I'm Hunter Massengill, alongside head coach Tony Ursuline, as always. Tanner to the side, Corey behind the scenes. Coming off of a win this past weekend, only one duel to
big
talk
win
about this weekend. A big win for sure, 18-14 over the Fighting Illini. Last time beat the Fighting Illini all the way back in 2010, the 09-10 season.
I did not realize that until Tanner, who was always good for the stats, had told me.
I told him after the duel.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Sean Meehan, Big Ten Network, the producer for the duel, he's texting me in the middle of the duel, and it's like, hey, when's the last time you guys beat Illinois? In Champaign.
Yeah.
And I said, I looked it up, and turned out the last time we beat Illinois was in Champaign.
And prior to that one, I wasn't able to find one going back to 99, 98, somewhere in there.
I've got it somewhere.
I'm sure that it's not that much farther, but either way, still a big win, 18-14. We'll talk about some specific matches in a moment, but an exciting one. Went back and forth with team points. Came down to the final match with Thomas Panola, winner of the match, wins the duel. Saw the same thing against Rutgers a few weeks ago with Parker Filius.
Yep.
Overall, how did you like your team's performance on Sunday?
Yeah, no, it was great, right? I mean, it was fun to win a duel like that, especially at the end of the year. With three guys out, we had as many as three starters out there, and to have Thomas once again come through was really big. I thought if you look at the energy on the bench and our guys towards the end of that duel, it was a great energy and a great kind of environment to be in. And I really, Thomas, embraces that.
Yeah.
I think I turned around right before he walked out and I said, hey man, this is why you come to college, right? And he looked relaxed. I mean, certainly he was jacked up and intense, right? Like he's just that kind of a kid. But man, he looked like, hey, yeah, I'm ready. This is going to be fun.
Well, we've talked about before how big it is for the lighter weights, 25 and 33s, to go out there and set the tone for the match. What we don't talk about a lot is the back end, the 97s and 85s, that could end up having the weight of the duel on their shoulders, which we've seen a couple times. And like we just talked about, Parker Filius had it a few weeks ago at Rutgers, but happens more often than not that it comes down to those final matches that your team wins or loses based off of whether you win or lose.
Yeah, and you feel good, especially with a guy like Thomas Panola, because he trains so hard. We've talked about it before, and he trains hard and he lives right, he thinks right, he's about it. And so you want it in those kind of guys' hands. You know what I mean? And you can just see he's creating belief within himself as he goes, and it's been a great thing to kind of see his evolution from 197, back in November to where he's at now in February at heavyweight.
And his dedication to his craft has been incredible.
Yes.
And the fact that you look at, he's been a huge project for Elaine and Ryan.
That's the word I was going to use, was project.
Yeah, no, and they've gone nuts about it. It's been so fun to watch that. I mean, usually Elaine gets all giddy and rubs her hands together and gets, she gets all dialed in when you talk about the fact that, putting the weight on somebody as opposed to trying to keep it off and so on and so forth. But it's been cool. I logged the weigh-in sheets into track wrestling, and watching his number slowly go up, and Sunday even was the highest he's weighed in at all season.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so he, the work never stops for that kid. It's awesome.
Parker Filius, as we were just talking about, who got the closeout win against Rutgers a few weeks ago, got another win, a big win yesterday over number 13 at 141. That match was tied, the overall match tied at 3-3. He was down 4-2 when he got that throw and got the takedown, got the back points. That was a complete change in the match for Parker.
Yeah, no, that kid, you've kind of been able to see this coming, similar to Thomas, but Parker's quietly having what I would call a very solid year. He was just missing maybe that really signature win that he's worked so hard. Yeah, and so to see him get that just kind of puts a stamp on what we've been seeing in the room and even in his performances. He was a little short against Moran. In the duel against Wisconsin, which would an opportunity to have another signature win, but you can just see it coming, right? And so it's not a surprise to us, but at the same time, that's really big for Parker. He has every reason and every right to be very confident heading into the postseason part now. He should feel really good about his preparation and his performances, and even mentally where he's at. I was just talking with Coach Shop prior to walking in here, and we were talking about kind of, his mental state seems to be really strong right now. He's in a very good place, and we're really excited for him.
Well, I think all of these matches speak to where the team is at and what they have on deck for them in the next couple of weeks. We'll get to that in a moment, though. First, I don't want to breeze over a couple more with Max Lyon. Got a huge win as well too for him. He had lost his last 4 going into Sunday, so not only was it a big win because it was a good opponent, but also a big win because he needed one to close out the season before what we've got on deck coming out.
Yeah, it's just been a month of small little improvements for Max. Just taking care of some little details. He gives you everything he has. He's a great kid with his attitude and his diet and how he comes in and approaches his workouts. Like, just no complaints there. It was just little technical things that we were trying to clean up, and those things don't get fixed overnight. And so he's been really putting in the time and the work to correct these little positional things, whether it's maybe how he gets into his tie or how he's covering his ankles from bottom, just different things. And it was just a very complete match where you saw these little things he's been working on all kind of click for him. So I just, again, excited that he seems to be peaking and doing some of his best wrestling at the right time.
Yeah. Same thing with Dylan Lighty. Dylan Lighty getting a win. Stop me if you've heard that before. Closing
in
out
overtime. Stop me if you've heard that before.
Yeah.
Improving to undefeated in overtime matches, which is incredible for him. Only 1 loss on the season, closes out the regular season, obviously, on Sunday. So only 1 loss on an incredible season, and seems to be setting himself up, don't want to speculate too much, but with a stalemate that has been at top of 174, probably a 3 seed come Big Ten time, it's going to be exciting to watch him, especially, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, peaking over the next couple weeks. It's going to be exciting to see where he gets to, because he just closed out 28-1 over the regular season.
No doubt. I mean, great year. Still challenges, right? I think some people think, when you have a 28-1 record, that it was an easy year, and lots of challenges.
Holy
you know
moly.
what I mean? The Big Ten is a grind every night, and he's just been a guy that has been really good in those tough situations, going deep into matches and finding ways to score. Still a great year, but I still feel like his best wrestling is in front of him. When he knows he needs to score, or he has a little more sense of urgency, man, he gets it done. And we just want to have that sense of urgency just a little sooner. He knows it. I think when you saw Dylan come off, there was a look of he was not happy with himself.
Right.
He was like, again, when he had to and he had that sense of urgency, he went and he got it. I think he realized that he had some of those same looks or situations earlier in the match where he could have pulled the trigger. And so we just want to keep encouraging that. He's in a really good spot. I think I've told the guys that very little is going to change, for us. We're certainly going to peak. We're going to sharpen in terms of, mentally and physically, and those little skill sets that we have for match plans. But very little is going to change because, we feel like we've been doing a great job all year, and so it's just sharpening those skill sets. So for him, it's not doing a lot different, man. It's maybe setting that tone a little earlier, because when he does, it opens the match up for him in ways that are really impressive.
I actually had showed Corey the video. You talked about him being after the match against Illinois. I showed Corey the video, and I caught it on, he finishes the takedown, he gets up and he looks at the bench and he starts shaking his head at himself. And you can just tell, like, winning's not enough for this kid right now. It's about doing everything the right way and getting to that earlier. And like you said, if he can get those takedowns in the first or second period and make a guy come after him, that's when Dylan, I think, gets really dangerous.
Yep.
Well, I think, for you as a coach, it has to be, those types of matches have to be anxiety-ridden for you, just because, not only because you're going to sudden victory, but also because you see what he does in sudden victory, where he comes out like he's shot out of a cannon in sudden victory. If you can find a way to get them to manifest that at the beginning of the third period, or maybe with a minute to go in the third period, instead of waiting until that do or die situation where if it doesn't go your way, that you lose the match.
Yeah,
do we hypnotize him and tell him that it's sudden victory right when he starts the match? Is there a way to do that?
Yep.
Hypnosis is the way, I think.
It's interesting for me, I guess, when you say the anxiety with these tight situations. Honestly, it's not the score with me and 90% of the guys. Honestly, it's honestly the tone of the match. The score can stay close in some certain situations, but if your guys are coming out and they're on their motion or they're into their ties and they're creating the action and they're attacking, right? If there's that kind of action or that tone of the match early, I feel much better about it because I know, hey, we're in shape and we can score points, but we've got to set that tone. And so that's really what I look for with a guy like Dylan. You know, and honestly, the rest of our team, you know, in different ways for different people, but with Dylan, I know if we come out and we're attacking and you know making the commitment to get our hands to the leg or we're on our fakes and snapping and to our hooks or whatever it is, you know, whatever his tie he's looking for, I feel much better about the match. You know, if it's a very subdued, sitting back kind of a match, then yeah, you're like, hey, we got to get our motor running, we got to get into the flow of the match and force the guy to keep up with us. So honestly, it's not a score thing as much as it is kind of what the tone and the tempo of the match is from my standpoint.
Yeah. Well, great season overall.
Don't skip Thomas. Don't skip Thomas.
Well, I didn't know if we had already talked about Thomas at the beginning.
Come on, we can't. That match was awesome.
He wants some love for the
you
man.
You always want to talk about Thomas, man.
That's exactly why I didn't bring it up.
We got to go to his match.
I'm beating a dead horse talking about Thomas Panola. Thomas Panola is an incredible wrestler at heavyweight. Not only an incredible wrestler, the firepower that he has in third periods, and I mean, like you said, he's a project, so it's just fun to watch him grow. Every single match he steps out there, he looks bigger. It looks like he lasts longer in each match. Yeah. It's just fun to watch.
I want to hear Ersland's take on the first 30 seconds of that match at heavyweight on Sunday, because I know what I saw, and I thought I was laughing hysterically. So I want to know what you were thinking when you watched him come out in that match against Luffman.
I was just thinking, don't headbutt him.
So he went super low instead.
Hey, I get it.
In all honesty here, right? In all honesty, and I'm not saying that because Thomas is not a dirty wrestler. He's not going out looking for it.
But he goes hard.
He goes hard, and he's moving forward, and he wants to be in your face. And I was just thinking, hey man, let's just get our hands in the right spot and beat him up with our hands and not make contact with our head, because you don't want something unfortunate like that to end a match. Like we go back to Wisconsin, right? Like that, we didn't have a chance to win the match because of it. So there was the intensity of that hand fight in the first 30 was really strong. I mean, you go back and you watch, and the hands were flying. And Thomas, he got a good heavy snap with his right hand. He got his left hand down the ankle and caught a nice pick. Finished clean on the edge, which, you know, that's dicey. Maybe he gets out of the bounds on you. And but the really funny part for me, because it was I mean, he was super intense, and he got that takedown, and he's walking back, and we're all like, ride him. You take a little more juice out of him, because we know we got a lot of juice. And my man goes, neutral. And I'm like, no, take him down. And I could just tell at that time, like, he was so jacked up.
Oh, he was amped.
I think his adrenaline just went boom through the roof, and he got so excited. He was like, neutral, I'm do it again. You know what I mean? And of course, you know, then they settled into the match, right? Yeah. But you could just see that he was really jacked up, and that was funny to me because we were thinking, all right, great, we got a takedown. Let's keep him down, ride and make him carry us for a little while here. Sure. You know, let's really make him work hard underneath.
Take the weight.
And he just put him right back up. He had like 3 seconds of riding time. I looked over his 3. I was like, what? That was his call. He made, and he's got to win the match. And I always tell the guys, listen, look over to us. We're going to tell you what we think. Just remember, though, at all times, you've got to win the match. So if you got a strong belief in your head one way or the other, you're the guy. I can't have you out there keeping him down but not believing because I told you. You know, you got to be all in on this.
Also, if you're going to do that call and ignore the bench, you better be right.
Yeah. Yes.
There's that.
But
no pressure.
But no, it was you know, after we won, it was, you know, we can laugh about it now, but when he came off, I was like, buddy, why didn't you keep him down? You know what I mean? And he was like, I got excited, coach.
Well, at least he's honest.
He was honest. So one thing I do want to say about the duel before we move on, because I know we've talked a lot about Thomas, we talked a lot about some of these signature wins, but I thought it was a great team win up and down that lineup. Sure. Even guys who lost, okay?
No easy outs.
They were tough outs. They gave us a lot, you know what I mean? And so I do want to give love. Obviously, Devin, been doing it all year. You know,
24-4.
wrestled a very disciplined match. You know, we want to find ways to our offense from our feet, but that kid dropping down to his knee is hard to engage in some ways. We'll be better next time with it because we've seen it. But I thought Devin wrestled a very disciplined match. Travis, you know, he's getting better. Had a highly ranked guy. He's competing. He's out there giving us everything he has, and he's going to be better because of it. And we talked about Parker. You know, Griffin, nice win for him. Controlled the match throughout. Nice to get him back going that way. Nate gave us a really, if he was in on the leg several times, right? He gave up the early takedown in the first 30 seconds, but then after that, I thought it was Nate who took the fight to the Illinois guy and was really one finish away from doing great. He's up, you know, so I was really proud of Nate. You know, Tanner Webster's been in there for a while now, you know, working hard for us. So I just thought it was a really good team win. Jared Florell.
Yep.
You know, got to get off bottom. You know, he knows it. But I just was really happy. It was a great team win from that standpoint. And everybody had a piece in it, even guys who had come up a little short in their matches.
Even guys that come up short but don't give up bonus points.
Yeah, I thought that was just, you know, that's
important.
important, right? In that dual meet, and what the dual meet is and the environment, and we've talked a lot about it. I thought that was a great environment, you know, and a great team win, you know, in quotes. So I don't want that to go unnoticed. I know we talk a lot about some of these guys who win, but there was guys who lost that competed very well, and you know, they'll be better because of it.
One point I wanted to make, going back to Panola for just a moment, talking about how he emotions kind of, the adrenaline is what got him into that second period, talking about him taking neutral. Is that something that you have to work with a lot of younger guys on, is being able to manage those emotions? And when you have a big first period, or you have a first period that really went your way, to be able to take that 5 or 10 seconds between periods and calm yourself back down, bring yourself back down. That way you don't, you know, whether or not it was the right decision to go neutral, and that is up for debate, but to let them settle down and know that, keep your head in the match, don't get ahead of yourself too much.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it a lot here, I believe, as well. It's stay in the moment, right? I mean, that's what it is. It truly is always just stay in the moment and wrestle the situation for what it is. When you start looking ahead, you know what I mean, that's when you get yourself in trouble. And that's a key example where, you know, there's a situation the dual meet's going to rest on this match, and you come out and you get a takedown, and man, boom, you're feeling great. You know what I mean? But again, you got to think about, what do I got to do next? You know, that takedown done and gone. You know, you got two, great, but you can't dwell on it. I got to wrestle the next 10 seconds or the next 20 seconds. What do I have to do to win that situation? And that's where he got a little excited. And, you know, his fight never wavered, like he kept going. But that's why we talk about it so much, because you can't predict every situation. Some of it's good. A lot of it we send around adversity, right? Like you go out there, you get thrown on your back. You didn't see that happening. Now we've got to come back. So instead of putting our head down and going away and thinking I can't win, man, we've still got, say, 6 minutes left in this match. Let's go wrestle the next 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's find out what that is going to be. And so truly, it's coach speak. I get it, but it's, hey man, it's stay in the moment, good or bad. It's just, let's wrestle the next situation.
You talked a little bit earlier, two different sort of sides of this coin. I'm thinking, you know, you got Lighty, where sometimes in matches you can tell the energy might not be there. You don't have the opportunity to call a timeout and get in his ear and say, let's go, raise it up. You don't have a timeout to call Thomas over and say, hey, chill out a little bit. Like,
you can't go talk to your pitcher like in baseball, or get a 20.
Like, you can coach.
Yeah.
They may or may not hear you or listen. I mean, that 7 minutes is theirs. Go.
Yeah, it's right. That's why all of the work is taking place now or throughout part of the season, and that's why very little will change going into nationals, because it's an everyday thing, and I truly believe that. I mean, I get it's boring sometimes because it's not a sexy answer, but it's what it is. Like, you know,
People want the sexy answers, Tony.
I get it, man. Like, you know, we all can't slap our guys in the face like Coach Vega does to Phillies before we send them out.
I hope people saw that. I hope people saw that on Twitter. We did a GIF of Leroy smacking Parker around, which he does before every match.
Yeah, and Parker wants him. Don't get it wrong.
It's invited.
By request.
It's invited. Yes.
That's Parker's last piece of preparation.
Vega's 9-year-old recorded it before the Nebraska match, and Vegas sent it to me, and I sped it up and turned it into a GIF. It's pretty funny.
Yep.
But I'm sure there's some guys out there that kind of live and die by that adrenaline too. That there's some guys that go out there. We've seen it already this season, especially guys. If you have a big third period that carries over into sudden victory, or you need that adrenaline to keep someone going. If they had a first or second period that didn't go their way, they go nuts in the third period. They need that adrenaline, and you don't want to calm them down because that you really think in that situation, this guy is not losing this match because he's got everything going his way in his mindset. Like he's not going to give up here.
You want your guys to stay in their best state. And the way I talk to our guys about it, it's like a number, okay? With say 1 is you're sleepy, you're almost dead out, and 10 is you're really super intense, the most intense you can possibly be. Where on that spectrum is your number? Is it a 7? Is it a 6? Do you like to be a 5 where you're pretty loose and almost somebody's joking with you before you go out because that's your best? It keeps that competition anxiety down a little bit, and you're a little more relaxed, and that's your best. Or are you like a Panola where you're pretty intense, like it's blinders on, straight ahead, and this is nothing else. I'm ready to chew on steel here. And so you got to think of it that way because that's where you want your kids. You don't want them to get out of that number. If you're not an intense kid, I don't want you at a 9 if you're normally a 6. Let's say, you know what I mean? Like, I get you may have been you may have got the last takedown and you're super jacked that you got it and now we're going OT. But if you're so jacked up, you come running high and your hands are high and you walk right into a shot, that adrenaline didn't do you any good. You being excited didn't do you any good. You got to be smart and you got to be composed. So I want you at your best. And what that looks like in terms of your emotional state is what you got to realize. You can't say, oh, great, I just got this takedown. I'm all jacked. Let's go. Oh, well, I just walked into a low single and now match is over. Sudden death, go home. Yeah. Well, you didn't get yourself back down to where you're going to wrestle hard and you're going to wrestle smart. So I think of it more that way. Yes, you can have momentum, but you want to always be in your best emotional state to wrestle smart and still wrestle hard.
Sticking in that analogy, have you seen a lot of guys come into the program and their number change over the course of, from freshman to senior, of they come in and maybe they're a guy that likes to be a little bit loose going into the match, just that's what they feel their best preparation is, and by the time they're a senior, maybe they're going into a match at an 8 or 9 because they've evolved to the point where they know they need to be
smacked in the face.
Right, where they need to be at that level to have more success.
I think it's it's an ongoing process through your career. So no doubt, like that. I think that if we just stick with the number analogy, that can change, no doubt. Because every year, man, you're a different guy. You got different match experience, different life experience. Everything affects us as human beings.
Might be a different weight. Might be
different weight. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think that always evolves over time, and a lot of young guys don't even think of it in those terms. So it's just trying to figure out sometimes where is your best, state. What is really. They may think, well, this is great for me, but we're over rev. We're making too many mistakes, man. Positionally. So maybe you got to bring it down a little bit. So it's always a process that you just don't take for granted. You don't assume next year, oh, he's this way, we're just going to do this. It's kids mature and grow and more experience and success or adversity. It all can affect you.
Yeah. Well, closing out the season with a victory, always a positive. Like just been talking about getting the win against Illinois.
Winning
on
dual
Sunday.
record. Winning
dual record.
Conference dual record.
Big, yeah. That was like I said, that was big. I for a team win, I couldn't have asked. We can always ask for more individual wins,
right.
But from a team standpoint, really great note for us to really kind of unite as we get ready for Big Tens.
But over the course of the entirety of the season, you've seen some incredibly tough opponents: Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Vegas, Arizona State early in the season, went out to Vegas. Midlands, your team has been extremely battle tested, and you have to feel at least good in this going into what's coming on deck. At least good in the sense that this team has seen what they should be able to kind of replicate what they're going to see in the next couple weeks. They're not going to be blindsided by the talent that they'll see at Big Tens and at Nationals.
Yeah. I've probably mentioned this before, but it's on our manual for the team manual, and it's right there in front, always center. It says confidence built through preparation, and I consider your schedule part of that preparation, right? The preparation of Nationals is your schedule, and no doubt us being in the Big Ten championships, we're going to see good competition, but then we always throw in these other tough events, the Arizona State duel, for instance, or Midlands or at Vegas. So we're very battle tested, and so those guys should draw a lot of confidence from that. They're not going to see a level of competition above where we've been. So they should feel really confident that, and almost all of them, right, have had lots of success. They've had big wins, they've had some tough losses, but they know what they have to do. They should have a great sense of what they have to do. So now we know where we've got to be. And so we've got a couple weeks to really tweak and train, and we haven't had a chance to train as much like this. So it's going to be nice to make another push and make another jump in the shape, and that'll obviously help us make a jump mentally. But yeah, they should draw a lot of confidence from kind of the schedule and the road they've been through.
And maybe even some rematches. I mean, obviously, because of the schedule that you put together for this season with those tough opponents, I mean, we're gonna have a lot of, come Big Tens, come Nationals, a lot of seeing Minnesota, Nebraska, and Iowa, and Arizona. Like, we're gonna see all those guys again.
No doubt. It will pay dividends.
Yeah. Well, one thing coming up in the meantime, over the course of the next 2.5 weeks, is state tournaments. Obviously, huge recruiting days and weekends for you guys as coaches. So what's your guys' schedule look like?
We now break from this regularly scheduled program to bring you high schools.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got it on the board back here. Illinois and Indiana the same weekend. This coming weekend. Wisconsin the following weekend. Ohio in a few weeks. Yep. How do you guys, as a coaching staff, break these up, sending different coaches out to different places?
Yeah, it's we were just actually talking about that right before this meeting as well. It's just looking at maybe who you're watching, both who's committed and who you're on. You know what I mean, or who you're wanting to identify. So I might, for instance, I might send AJ, who's a lighter weight coach, if we've got some lightweights in Illinois. He might be going to Illinois. Or we might split it. I mean, honestly, because the Illinois State Tournament takes place over multiple days, we've talked about, I'm looking at Friday night.
And the fact that it's just in Champaign.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's a nice
hour and a half from here and 2 hours from Indy.
So it's an hour and a half over. So I might be over there Friday and AJ Saturday. We've got obviously Indiana going Friday, Saturday. So you might see Jake on Friday night down at Indiana and me on Saturday. I'll come back Friday night and I'll go down to Indiana on Saturday as well. And you're juggling your practices around that. So it's just a really busy time for coaches. I love it personally. I mean, listen, the grind is real, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm never tired of getting back from recruiting and then you got to go into the next thing. But it's kind of like the Nationals and Big Tens for us. You get down to these state tournament, these kids have sacrificed and suffered so much, and they're laying their hearts out there for you. So you really love it. Like, it's a great environment. It keeps you motivated because you watch these kids just sacrifice everything and go after their goals. And I love that. Those are the guys you want in your room, the guys who will suffer and sacrifice and work for something. So it's an exciting time, but it keeps us really busy.
You kind of touched on it there. What are you looking for? Like, I don't imagine you go down there and you see a big result and all of a sudden you're interested in something. Like, what are you looking for?
Listen, you're obviously looking for talent, right? There's a minimum kind of in my mind, and different coaches can give you different answers. So there's a minimum that you look for. Like, to wrestle in the Big Ten, hey, you've got to have some pretty good skill sets.
Sure.
So but once you get past that, man, you're really looking for a work ethic and an attitude because, of everything we've talked about. The grind, it's real. The training required, I think there's a story out there by Mark Schwab, who we had in earlier, but you chose a tough sport, kind of a deal, right? Hey, this is required. Sorry, you chose a tough sport. And that's the thing, because you chose a tough sport, you are looking for people who truly understand the work ethic and the sacrifice. And it's a strong word, but suffering, I know Coach Ryan at Ohio State's big on that. I'll give him credit for that too, but it's real. Like, there is some suffering that has to take place 100%. To get to where you want to be. And so you're looking for kids who are all in on that. They want to be tested and pushed in that way because they know it's going to take them where they want to go. So truly, it becomes more about that once you identify the talent, right?
Well, and it's not even always about winning too. That's the other thing too. Is you'll get kids and you'll get families that they think, well, my kid won. My kid won. They won. They're the best. They won. And yes, that's amazing. They won. They should be recognized for their achievements and so on and so forth. But there's so much more that goes into recruiting. And you look at, we're gonna beat this horse a little bit today. Look at a kid like Thomas Pinola. Thomas Pinola didn't win state title. He took third. But that's not what it was about for us.
I don't think Leidy did either, did he?
Leidy won the state
No,
title.
Leidy did
senior year. Okay.
Leidy won his senior year.
Okay.
But there's guys in our room that that didn't win a state title, but they're here because they meet some of those other intangibles, and they have that. They're obviously talented enough to be there, but they meet those other marks and those other criterias of the work and the grind and the push and the fight that it takes to be in that room every single day.
Well, that was going to be my part of my question was how much weight do you put in these state tournaments? Because it's not like you're waiting until the championship match to go talk to the two kids that were involved in that. But also, wrestling is so much bigger than just state tournaments. Obviously, state tournaments are a peak for a lot of wrestlers. But there's so many tournaments, so many other types of wrestling going on around the country. How much weight do you put in specifically these state tournaments that you're going to go up and see in a couple of weeks?
It's like anything. It's a piece of the evaluation process. Yeah. Some get more weight than others, and you have to take each individually because you could have an outstanding young man and he wins the state title, but he was in a bracket where he wasn't really tested. What does that really tell you? I mean, we put a lot of stock in seeing how a young man, when he's tested or there's adversity, how does he react? Sometimes the best evaluation is you see a kid get upset. Now he's on the back side of the bracket and he's got to wrestle 3, 4, 5 times to place. And that takes some intestinal fortitude.
How do you fight?
Yeah, how do you fight back through that when you maybe you just had your heart ripped out, like you came to win, you got your heart ripped out, you can't win, now you're on the back side, how are you going to fight? And so it's a piece of the puzzle. And just like we talk about Cliff Keen or Midlands being a big tournament, right? It carries a little more weight than some other tournaments. It's the same thing for high school. It might be we're going to look at Fargo, out in freestyle. We're going to look at Flow Nationals. We're going to look at high school nationals. We're going to look at folk style nationals. It's a piece. And so you have to just kind of evaluate it independently and see what your overall thoughts, are of the young man you're looking at.
Well, it's an exciting time across the country for wrestling. Obviously, state championships, all kinds of championships going on, and not to mention the Big Ten championships coming up in a couple weeks, which we'll have a chance to preview in a couple weeks as well. Don't want to get too much into that until we have some more information, seating and all that stuff.
There's
brackets.
a lot of information to come on all that.
Yeah, a lot of information. So before that weekend, we'll have a chance to talk about that. We won't get into any of that today. But good win this weekend.
Yeah.
And it should be an exciting next couple weeks.
Best of luck to Jake Rundell and Cooper Norrie. They're taking their shot at their state titles in Illinois and Indiana
this
respectively.
Weekend.
So best of luck to those guys. We're excited to see him. Excited to see him wrestle and go take their shot. Excited for like Coach said, this is what they've been chasing. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. Like I said, it'll be busy because we'll be going back and forth. Watching, but excited to watch, especially a lot of these Indiana kids as they finish up, because there's several. I mean, obviously we have Cooper, who we're really watching close because we know he's already coming.
He's committed.
But there's a lot of young men in the state that we're really paying attention to now, and it's going to be fun to kind of watch them wrap up their season.
So everyone out there, be on the lookout for Coach Ursuline and the rest of the coaching staff. He doesn't have the beard to stand out anymore. Maybe you can get it back by the weekend?
I might, it might come back. It won't come back for the weekend. I think maybe a good training beard for March.
You think about a playoff beard?
I'm thinking, like a playoff beard is a good one. I call it a training beard, but I'm thinking March might be a good time to bring it back.
Well, if you don't tune in for anything else next time, tune in to see how the beard's coming along for Coach.
Absolutely.
Chia beard.
Right. Well, for head coach Tony Ursuline, Tanner, Corey, I'm Hunter. Always Aggressive Podcast. We'll see you next time. And as always, spoiler up.